Hi everyone, and welcome to our third health-related workshop as part of our Spring into 2021 program. This week we have got a Q&A session with Gus Worland, who is the founder of Gotcha4Life. Now, you may have seen Gus on TV, you may have heard him on the radio before, you might recognise him as being the host of the Man Up documentary, or you might have seen him be our MC at our Active Farmers Games in 2019 at Temora. So Gotcha4Life is all about building meaningful mateships and mental fitness. And Gus is hugely passionate about this topic and is all about saving more lives. So he shares with us some really simple strategies that you can easily implement into your life and the importance of having great mates. So please enjoy. There are some really powerful messages here. It's definitely worth listening to. And I hope, Gus, that we can do many more things in the future, because at Active Farmers, we also have a really proactive approach towards trying to save more lives. So enjoy, guys. I hope you enjoy as much as I did. Okay, so thank you very much, Gus, for being with us today. I'd like to just start off by asking you where you grew up and what you wanted to be when you were a kid.
Great question. I was very lucky. I was born in Sydney, but my dad used to work for Travelodge hotels, and it was his job to find, in the early 70s, places around the world where they could put a Travelodge hotel. So we spent most of my childhood just traveling around to these beautiful spots, Guam, Tokyo, Fiji, all around the South Pacific. And we actually lived in Tokyo for 2 or 3 years. And then eventually at the age of 6, we settled back in Sydney, and a suburb called Pymble, which is on the Pacific Highway, sort of near Chatswood or Hornsby, sort of the 2 points, half an hour from Sydney, and grew up in a street where I was just so lucky. There were so many kids. We just played so many games and climbing trees and grabbing cicadas, British bulldog, tennis, cricket, and you had dinner wherever you sort of fell, you know. It didn't really matter, and the mums and dads were all onto each other saying, "Oh, I've got Gus down here and Clint's down there," and spent all of us mates were just wherever together, and we we're very lucky in a nice spot. So a lot of my family are from Hay, and that's why I think I love being out of Sydney so much. I just love the open spaces, and so I spent a lot of my childhood in Hay through the holidays, where I was with my cousins and my auntie and uncle.
Yeah, I mean, what you're just talking about sounds so much like a farming community growing up.
Yeah, it pretty much was. It was absolutely fantastic. In fact, this weekend, I had a weekend away with 3 blokes that I met when I was 5. So we're saying, you know, we're nearly 50 years friendship together, which is quite amazing. One lived at number 2, I lived at number 4, and then the 2, what we call scumbags from the bottom of the street, and number 25A and number 25B, they were their houses. And back then, big blocks. We were very lucky. And I remember, if you may be too young to remember, but there's a tennis player called John Newcombe, and Nuke was like a world number 1, won 20 odd Grand Slams, won 3 Wimbledons, Australian Opens, and US Opens, and they grew up at the bottom of our street. And Nuke asked us when we were 18, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I actually wrote down that I want to be talking on the radio. So it took me nearly another 22 years to get there, but by the time I was 40, I was actually on Triple M breakfast radio. So that was always my goal.
Yeah.
I wanted to be a cricketer, and I wanted to be, you know, opening the batting in an Ashes test against England. But I ended up playing at a decent level up against the War Brothers when I was 18.
Oh, wow.
And after that particular game, I realised that the War Brothers were going to play for Australia and I wasn't. So I got put back in my box pretty quickly. But I've had a very fortunate life, and I've been able to tick the box of doing what I really wanted to do. But it took me a while to get there. You know, I was 40 by the time I got there.
Yeah, right. So what happened in between before you
Well,
got
when I was 18, I had a great time at school. I loved it, and they offered an opportunity to go on a gap year to England. So in 1987, off I went to England and met who you now know as my wife, Vicky.
Oh,
Had a ball. All of us were over there, a whole heap of blokes from the school I went to. We did the European adventure, and I fell in love with England. I fell in love with the pub scene and the sport, and just I know that real feeling of team and being a part of something, community and gang. And so I went back and forth there until Vix eventually and I came back here. And, people who know me reckon I can sell sand to the Arabs. So I was always going to be a salesman. My grandfather was a salesman, and I was very lucky and fortunate enough to meet the husband of my cousin, Angus, and he was another Angus, and he said to me, come and work at Toshiba. So I worked at Toshiba in a couple of different countries for nearly 10 years and absolutely loved it. And that sort of set me up, I suppose, in terms of my family. My wife and I had 3 children by then. And then at 38, as you know, my best mate's Hugh Jackman, and he came up with an idea around a cricket show, and he said, I reckon you could be in it, Gussie. And I went, mate, I would love to. I'm sort of over this selling and I'd like to do something different. So I got my first gig on TV at a show called An Aussie Goes Barmy. I followed the Australian cricket team, but I was living with the Barmy Army cricket supporters from England. And that went well, and I ended up doing An Aussie Goes Bolly, which was with the Indian fans. And then I did An Aussie Goes Calypso, which was with the West Indian fans. And after that show, I came back to Australia and I was promoting it on the radio. And the boss of Triple M was actually in a taxi between the airport and the radio station. And he was enjoying my storytelling, and he stayed in the cab until my story was over whilst the meter was still ticking. And he said, I couldn't remember ever doing that. And he said, look, what do you do for a living? And I said, well, I've just finished this show and I'm looking for something else. And he said, well, I need a Sydney breakfast show. Why don't you come and trial out for it? And in the end, I was on for just over nearly 10 years on breakfast radio in Sydney. So people say, you get lucky at times, and timing is everything in life. And I've been lucky enough to have some decent timing in the time that I've been out there trying to have a crack.
But also, the guts to take those opportunities that came up.
Well, certainly the first time was an easy one because I was looking for a change. But I suppose when you're given an opportunity, I remember the first interview I ever gave, like talking to the paper, the Daily Telegraph, and they said, well, the only reason you've got this job is because you're best mates with Hugh Jackman. And I'm like, yeah, absolutely. That's absolutely right. And they're like, oh, I think they were trying to shock me or for some reason make me, go, oh, look, no, I know what I'm doing. I was just truthful. And I think because I was 38 at the time, I had 3 children, I was able to handle that sort of question, and it just disarmed the journalist. And in the end, I got to explain what exactly had happened, and they went, well, good on you for having a crack.
Yeah.
And Jacko, well, he had a lot of faith in me. And when you've got a friend like Hugh Jackman, who has done so much, but you've grown up with him, it makes you realize that he's just another human being. Like I was there when the first time his girlfriend dropped him, or the first time we got drunk together, the first time we threw up, the first time we were nervous going to a ball or a dance, or like he's just, I've been through all those things with him. So to him, it was hard work, obviously a huge amount of ability, but there's lots of people with ability that end up not having, successful lives or lives where they take full advantage of their opportunity. So having him as a mentor in that reason, I went, well, if Jacko can do it, I can do it. It gave me the confidence to have a crack.
Totally. Yeah. Well, hopefully you're giving some people watching the confidence to have a crack at
Yeah.
something that might be, an opportunity for them. Oh, well, that sounds amazing. And then you did go on to be the host of the Man Up. And so I want to focus mostly on what you're doing now, but I was just interested to hear about that and if that was something that led into Gotcha4Life or vice versa.
Yeah, look, absolutely. I was on the radio, and basically FM radio to Triple M, it's fart jokes, it's sport, and it's like lifestyle chats and stuff. So I had Matty Johns and Mark Geyer, 2 rugby league legends, and myself, and we just wanted to have lots of fun on the radio. But after about 4 or 5 years, you start looking at the content that you're putting into the show, and you want to really question whether or not you're nailing it or not. So we put out a survey to all our listeners at the Triple M Club, which is about 50-odd thousand people on the internet. So we sent out a question, what would you like us to talk about on the radio show? And one of the things that came back really, really big in most people was they wanted, the men weren't 20 anymore or 30 when they started listening to Triple M. They were now in their late 30s or 40s, and they had different responsibilities. They were family men, they had children, they were worried about their financial future, they were worried about their relationships and how lonely they were getting. So we just went, well, perhaps we could change the content around a bit. So of course we're still going to have fun and take the mickey, and because that's what Triple M's about, and have a joke, and of course the rock music. But could we slot into one show every couple something about mental health, something about what we call mental fitness now, or just real life emotions about being a father or being a son growing up? So we decided to put that into the show. And again, timing for me, I started talking about my friend Angus, who had taken his life, the friend that I spoke about that was being this mentor for me when I was selling. He ended up taking his life, and I spoke about it one day, and I was very emotional. And we had so many people respond saying, you know, same here, you know, me too. I've had that experience. I'm worried about a friend of mine. And a lady who had just decided to do a documentary on why we lose so many beautiful blokes every day to suicide was actually in the car traveling to drop her 2 sons off at school. She wouldn't normally be listening to Triple M, but it was just luck that she was listening because her sons used to like the show. And she rang me and said, would you like to actually go on a bit of adventure, a bit of a journey on why we lose so many blokes? Let's challenge masculinity in this country. And I went to my cousin, whose husband had taken his own life, and I asked her if it was okay. And she said, look, we've been silent long enough. Let's go out there and let's hopefully save some people's lives. So we started the Man Up program. It was 65 days of filming. Within about the first 10 or 15 days, I knew this was a job that I would love to do. It wasn't just a job that I had to do. And in fact, I didn't really need to be paid for it. Like, if I knew how much it would mean to me and how much it would change my life. And it was just brilliant. And at the back end of that, I went, well, I've got to keep going with this. So what can I do? And I said, I just got to find someone who's gotcha, someone who's Gotcha4Life. And I went, I'm going to start a foundation called Gotcha4Life. So we're in our 4th year now. We've fundraised just over $5 million. We've given all that away to anyone who works in the preventable space, because there's too much money sent at the crisis point, I believe. I think we should be educating, you've got 3 little ones. They're probably too little right now at home, but we should be educating in primary and senior school what it takes to be a man and a woman today compared to when the rules were set all those years ago. It's a really, really tough stereotype to try to live up to, being an Aussie guy in particular. So what are we going to do about it? Let's find all these wonderful courses that are out there and find the best one, and let's fund it, and let's look after it. Let's really build it up. And Tom Harkin was that guy. He was the one at the time. And now we've got 15 or 16 Tom Harkins, and we've got Paige Harkin, his wife, that's got a whole lot of ladies doing the Tomorrow Woman programs. So we support that, and we support rock. And of course, John Harper in China. We support him and the podcast in his first series, and other stuff with Rock and Dave and so forth that just need funding and need a little bit of love and stuff. So it was Man Up into Gotcha4Life, and then eventually the radio breakfast finished for me, and I'm now full-time, just over a year, doing Man Up and doing Gotcha4Life, and I absolutely love it. My wife, as you know, works in it as well, and it's extremely emotional, and I find it challenging at times. There's some mornings I get up to 1,000 messages on Messenger, because on Facebook you don't have to be a friend to send someone a message. And I've just got all these people that are crying out for support and help, and I find that really heavy to deal with that. But we're coming up with ways that we can try to help as many people as possible, because people are going through stuff, and COVID made it tougher for most. And I honestly believe suicide is the death of loneliness, and I just want everyone to find that person they can talk to outside of banter with, because we're so good as Aussies, guys and girls, to just talk about stuff that's what we'd call banter. We've just got to find that deeper relationship with someone so we don't worry alone. And I think if we don't worry alone, we're more likely to get through the stuff that life throws at us.
So then, okay, so when you've come up with Gotcha4Life, you've had your light bulb moment.
Yeah.
What things did you learn during the Man Up journey and your own journey about some of the statistics out there, some of the facts about what's happening, to then really drive you to go and try and do something more about it? What things did you find out during that time?
The stats are horrendous. Back when I did Man Up, it was 6 a day for men and 2 ladies a day. Those numbers could be up to 8 a day and 3 ladies now. Depends on who you listen to, and stats do come a little later than they actually probably should. But so the numbers have gone up, and I think COVID certainly hasn't been helpful for that. But not only that, there's 70,000 attempts of suicide a year, and most of those are women. So we know that the suicide, 75% of men, 70,000 attempts. You and I have been chatting for what, 10 minutes or so? Every 28 seconds, someone rings an ambulance in this country to say, I've tried to take my own life, or someone close to me, or someone they've found. So that's 20 people in the time that you and I have been chatting that have phoned the ambo. So if we think that we've nailed it, if you think that we've got this down and we've got it under control, we're wrong. So we need to do different things. So those stats shocked the absolute bejesus out of me. Absolutely. And I went, wow. And I wonder why. And then I realized by talking to blokes that most of us don't want to talk about things out of banter, because once you start talking about your feelings and your emotions, we get out of control. And if we're out of control, that's when blokes don't tend to want to be. So we just find ourselves back in banter as quick as possible. And we never sit in that awkward silence enough. We don't have a conversation of gravity enough. We don't have a conversation where snot's running out of your nose and tears are running out of your eyes, and you're struggling to get those words out. And mates of yours are listening to you, but they don't know how to help. And they tend to want to shut it down because they feel by giving you a hug and saying, it'll be all right, mate, that's probably the right thing to do, where we actually have to learn how to have those conversations of gravity. You know, your husband would be a knockabout. I met him at the Farmers Run a few years ago. He's a knockabout. He's busy. He's got a lot on and so forth. When was the last time he sat down without a beer and actually spoke to a mate of his heart to heart, or went for a walk so they don't have to see each other eye to eye, and just wandered and spoke about things outside of footy or the farm or family and that type of thing? And we just don't give ourselves enough of those opportunities to have those combos. And it doesn't mean you have to burst into tears every 5 minutes. It doesn't mean you have to have a deep and meaningful conversation every time you talk. But what it does mean is you have to find that one person to have that conversation with when you need it. And that's where I try to have these discussions with blokes in rugby league clubs and out in the country, the real knockabouts who just go, mate, I don't want to be that whinging bastard. I don't want to be that guy that drags everyone down. Everyone's got stuff on. I'm not going to highlight my stuff. And it's like, imagine if we all talked about it. Imagine if everyone just got it off their chest and had that moment. We just had some face-to-faces here on the northern beaches of Sydney. We had 257 blokes turn up at Avalon at the surf club, and they all walked in thinking they were going to be the only ones that turned up that night. Hour and a half later, everyone's hugging each other. Everyone's going, oh, feels so much better. Everyone's a little bit stuffed up. I'm like, exactly. Yep. And it's all right that we're all a bit dysfunctional. It's all right that we don't have the answers. In fact, it's human. And it's also human to actually show emotion about the fact that you're struggling a bit, and the fact that you look around and you're part of this really big team now. That makes us feel better, doesn't it? Because we're not isolated. We're not alone. We're actually like, oh, this is all right. This is normal. And that's what we have to have more of, these conversations, so it becomes more normal. And then you go, it doesn't mean you don't work hard or you haven't got resilience, but it means you don't actually make the decision to take your own life. Because I'm sure that no one actually wants to die, but I am absolutely sure that they're in pain and they want the pain to stop. And they think the only way the pain to stop is to actually take their own life. So we need to start talking about the pain that we're in and start treating it and start looking after ourselves so that pain goes away. And for some people, that's going to become easier than others. But whatever we're doing right now, going and doing these things, worrying alone and not talking, this has got us to where we are now. The number one way to die in its Australian male is suicide. 70,000 attempts, most of those are women. So boys, girls, men, women, whatever you want, whatever gender you are, and there's lots in between, we're not doing something right at the moment. We've got to do something different. And I believe a simple conversation, having the chance to man up and speak up rather than man up and shut up, is going to get us through stuff more than what's going on at the moment, where most of us are worrying alone way too much.
And there's that fear of being vulnerable, and especially out here in the bush, there is that sort of culture that's been ingrained in farming communities over many, many years, where you do just have to be tough and suck it up and keep going. And it's, have you found, like, through your experience, a difference between city, country, remoteness?
Definitely. It's definitely harder to get through out in the country, but I am noticing, I've just spent the last couple of weeks with Freddie Fittler going through quite a bit of northern New South Wales and quite a bit of southern New South Wales. Actually, I caught up with China in Tumut, and we did 31 school visits, and the kids are like sponges. They're just looking at you going, I want to be a better son, daughter. I want to be a better brother, sister. I want to talk to my dad about this. I want to talk to my mum about this. In fact, Freddie gave all the kids a basic way to start your day each day, which is make your bed, because you can have the worst day possible, but when you get home, your bed's made.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure you have water is the first thing you do. I mean, have a wee and then have some water, and then do 5 seconds in through your nose and 5 seconds out. And then the first conversation you have each day should be without your phone. So try that for the next month or so. Well, a bloke rang me from Wagga and said there's no alarm clocks left in his store, because all these kids were coming in with their parents saying, I can't have my phone in my room anymore. There's got to be out charging in a basket, because that's what Gus and Freddie said.
Yeah.
And it's just awesome. And this other bloke got hold of me on Instagram. He goes, my daughter demands a litre of water jug on the breakfast table now, where normally she'd come down and she'd pick at a bit of toast, and there'd be some sort of sugary cereal there that she might have an attempt at, but she'd leave for school with nothing in the tummy, and certainly no water and stuff. So it shows if you keep talking, you keep putting some simple processes involved. And for me, talking about mental fitness rather than mental health, it gives it a more positive thing, that it gives you, like your physical fitness, something to work on, and you can actually be a 2 out of 10. But know that if you do the exercises, if you eat clean and stuff, you'll probably lose some weight and be healthier. Well, we can start giving you some exercises for your mental fitness as well. And the kids seem to really get into that. And I think if we have that generation, like your grandchildren's, so we're talking a few generations away, but eventually it sinks in, it becomes the norm. And I think that'll become the norm for everyone. But you're right, it's definitely ingrained in generations of people in the country. But lots of people here, multicultural city life in particular, I can talk to a kid till I'm blue in the face. I see them next time and they say that they went home and spoke to their mum and dad, and the mum and dad have just brushed what I've said completely. They're saying that's just a whole lot of blah, blah, blah. It's weak and it's this and it's that. It's so hard for a kid to stay the test of time when mum and dad are so against it. Definitely. So we have to keep going back, and we need to have a parent night where hopefully I can chat to one of the dads and have that discussion, because it'll only get better if we talk about it more. And being vulnerable should be looked upon as a brave thing to do, because it's so hard to do. The hard thing's not to lock up and bury your emotions. The hard thing is to actually get the words out when there's that knot in your tummy. Very, very difficult to do that. So I find that to be harder, and more traditionally manly than just going, I'm not talking about it. I'm just going to make out that everything's okay. I'm going to pop my mask on and I'm just going to make out that everything's sweet, and I'm just going to get on the piss. I mean, that to me is more fun and easier. So that is less manly traditionally, I think.
Yeah, definitely. And so, you talk about finding a mate and having this meaningful mateship and relationships with a mate. This is going to sound like a bit of I don't know, maybe like a girly type question, but it could be applicable to the guys. Like, how do you break the ice with someone? You think you've got someone lined up that you can trust and and you like and you respect. Like, how do you say to them, how do you go about it? Because a lot of people don't, as you mentioned before, they don't want to burden their friends, or sometimes if someone has a bit of a download, and then they say, oh, sorry for saying that. And it's like, well, that's what friends are for. I mean, it's easy to be on the receiving end, but what advice do you have about that kind of roadblock of making the plunge?
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's a great question. And the simple answer is you've just got to go for it. And I'm not talking about doing it in a group of people or at a party or something. It's like you got to make the appointment to say, hey, why don't we just go and do something together? So whatever you can do together, wherever you are, whatever makes you happy to go and do something with just one other person, that person that you described, that's what you go and do. And at some stage during the day, you go, you know what? I'm just going to go for it. Even if you just say it out loud, that this is really hard for me, but I love you, brother, and I'm finding myself more and more worrying alone about stuff. And I want to be able to tell someone, and you're my guy. And I hope that's okay. And like you say, it's so much easier to receive that information. So if you're that person that you've been asked to be that person, then of course, we just go, mate, whatever you need. So that is one way of doing it. Some people just text person saying, hey, I can't say this to you face to face, but I want to let you know that I am worrying alone and I've got a whole heap of stuff that I've been burying, and I want you to be the guy that I talk to about it. And that means the next time you see each other, when you've organized just to have a one-on-one, that there's already been a boundary set that discussion is going to be different to what it normally might be. Or some people might just need a couple of cool ones to just take the edge off.
Yeah.
You go to the bar and you just sit in the corner and you guys chat for a little while, or you take a 6-pack over to your mate's place and you sit out the back and you just chat about stuff.
Or fishing or something.
Absolutely. And to me, it's like anything, like physical fitness. Like you couldn't go and run like you run by just having one run and then the next run you haven't run or exercise in between. It's about practicing. It's about going back and having those discussions, and you'll get better and better at them. Just like you become a better and better athlete if you train and you eat the right way and you've got a trainer. Imagine if you've got a trainer, you'd be better again. So think of your physical fitness and your mental fitness as two things that are the same. You've got to find your gym. You've got to find your exercise. You've got to keep doing it. You can't do it every now and again and expect to get better at it. So that to me is absolutely key. And you've just got to man up and speak up, because bearing your emotions will not get you where you need to get. I promise you there'll be something eventually that tips you over the edge. Hopefully it's not suicide, but if it tips you over the edge, it does mean that you're not living anything like your full life. And once you've got that relationship that's deeper than banter, there's nothing like it. You can say anything to anybody and they're not going to judge you. They'll love you no matter what. And they'll go, wow. And you go, I don't expect you to fix me. I don't expect you to have all the answers, but I'm just so glad I feel better that I've told you. And that is a really cool relationship to have. It's just so much deeper. When I go around with Freddie, we talk about communicating on the field, and we've got really talented footballers at state of origin level, the best footballers on the planet. And they're communicating all the time, inside, outside, I've got here. There's just continual talk. Do we talk like that off the field? And that's what we have to start doing. We need to start having that communication off the field as well as we do it on the field.
Yeah. And I think like sometimes like that, making that initial plunge and saying it out loud means that then you've kind of got to do something about it.
Yeah.
Like
and it's better when you say it out loud, because it normally doesn't sound quite as bad when you verbalize it, where in blokes in particular, but I know it goes on with boys and girls. But us blokes, we come up with some real shocking decisions when we're just thinking just up here. As soon as you verbalize it, then you realize, that's probably not quite as bad, or I might handle that slightly differently. But if we just keep rolling it around in our heads, no good.
Yeah. So then like, say, if, someone's chosen you and you're the meaningful mate, and then, they've got some serious issues, like, what do you do? I mean, I know, listening and things like that. Like, what do you say? Maybe you should go see your doctor, or is that?
Of course, you're just part of the team then. So you just say, look, I'm not here to fix you, brother, but thank you so much for sharing it with me. I hope you feel better that it's off your chest. And now you and I are part of the team. And then we're going to add to that team. So we're going to go and find a doctor that we like, or a counselor, or a psychiatrist, or someone else to talk to. Maybe there's a coach or someone in town that you go, well, he's the type of guy or she's the type of girl that can help us. So you start building your team out. You know how the old term of, it takes a village to bring up a child?
Yeah, I love that.
That's what we're talking about here. You start building your village around that person so they're not worrying alone and they're not feeling isolated. So that's what it's about. It's not about coming up with all the answers yourself. It's like, right, okay, so think of every sporting team they've got coaches, managers, physios, masseuse, the bloke who drives them to the ground, the bloke who marks the field. It's a team of people that make that thing happen. So why do we think we need to take on the biggest challenges in our life alone?
Yeah.
It just makes no sense at all. You're going to run out for your local footy club or hockey club or netball club as one person. Got a feeling you might get beat up. So you need your teammates around you. So that's what we should be doing in life. Find your crew, find your Gotcha4Life crew, Gotcha4Life mate, and then build your team out from that. And believe me, the more you talk about it, the more you'll realize that everyone else is going through the same shit.
Yeah, exactly. No one's perfect. And
in fact, throw away perfect is another thing, because these things, unfortunately, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, whatever, it gives you such a feeling that everyone's having such an awesome time all the time.
Yeah.
The truth of it is, we like to post the best of us, and I get that, because you want to put yourself out there as someone who's going well, but everyone is going through stuff, and that's human and natural. So post a bit of that.
Definitely. But yeah, I just wanted to a quick mention how you've been talking about teams and team sports, and unfortunately, when the footy boots get hung up, or when the netball, your netball skirts get put away, then a lot of people are no longer ever part of a team, and often, especially out in the bush, another great thing about being part of a team is you see each other often, so you're actually more likely to notice a change in behavior. Whereas then you're no longer part of a team, you're not exercising as much, and you're not seeing these people around you all the time, and especially people who are more busy these days than I've ever witnessed. It is easy for people to slip away, and so it does come a lot from the individual needing to man up, as you say, because it's pretty easy, I imagine, to just go along and hide away with people probably don't even notice because they're so busy.
That's it. Exactly. There was a mate of mine. I've got a walking group that I old mates of mine, and a mate of mine, after about a month or so, said to me, mate, no one's noticed in the last couple of weeks that I've been pretty quiet and miserable. And I said, it's not up for us to do that. We've got our own shit going on. It's up to you to go, hey guys, I'm having a shit time at the moment and I need your help. He could do that in the whole group, because we're already close, and we'd all literally just go and hug him and try to help him. And what do you need, brother? We'd probably go overboard trying to fix it. And he goes, what do you mean? I go, you've got to man up and speak up. You've got to tell us that something going, or tell one of us, so you're not worrying alone. It's not up to us to find and go, I'm sussing all my friends and family out. I wonder who's good and bad today. Go mad. And unless someone really walks in crying or really miserable, it's very hard to find people and how they truly are, because most of us put on the mask and we walk in and we walk into the family do, and then you get back in your car and you're driving home, you're like, whew, I got away with that one. So it's up to us to teach people how to have the conversation, to build the emotional muscle, to be mentally fit. And that's what all the courses that we do, Tomorrow Man, Tomorrow Woman, Rock, and Man Anchor, who have a couple of great courses called Accidental Counselor and Mental Health First Aid. They're all the courses that we fund every year. Well over $1 million goes to that each year, to build those courses and programs up, to get them into more schools, into more sporting clubs, into more corporations. So we've got more emotional muscle to be able to have those conversations outside of banter.
Yeah. So when you're talking about mental fitness, so it's the mates, and it's having, it's manning up and staying.
Yeah.
Are there any other things? I mean, you know, you talked about putting your phone away at night time. You talked about the making
Water,
bed, water, like
breathing.
breathing.
There's some pretty simple stuff. So
Yep.
if you just think about it, if you wake up in the morning, most of us will wake up to our iPhone or one of those like that going diddle it, diddle it, or to a song that you put in there. And what's the first thing we do? We normally pick it up, go to the loo, probably sit on the loo, and we read the phone. Or we lie in bed for a bit, seeing what's happened overnight. My wife does that. She's got friends and family in England. She's English, and she is nattering away to her sister, right? From about 5 a.m, because that's the time where her sister's finished work, because we're ahead and blah, blah, blah. I could go through the sporting results. I could go through what's happened overnight with mates overseas, got mates in New York, mates in London in particular. I could literally waste away 20 minutes, 30 minutes before I even get up and go to the loo. I learned from Freddie to not even have my phone in my room. So that's downstairs now in a basket charged. So I get up, go to the loo, I then have a glass of water, I then breathe just for a minute. 5 seconds in, 5 seconds out, and I'll do that for a minute. Calms me. And I start thinking about my day, what am I doing today, and that sort of stuff. So I've got my breathing, I've got my water. I haven't had any communication yet with my phone. And I try to then have some breakfast before I look at my phone. And that hopefully is some eggs or something that's actually going to be good for me, not just a sugary cereal and orange juice and that type of stuff. And when you ask people what they have for breakfast, some of it's horrendous, you know, like every day, you know, banging a bloody Monster into them or a Red Bull and a this and a that and 5 sugars in their coffee, triple shots here and there. It's like your body, you're automatically putting your body under pressure, you know, whereas if you just give it some water, it gives it what it needs because we're dehydrated overnight. So some real simple stuff like that. Try that for a month and just see how your morning ends up, and then look at your phone and go over what you need to do. There might be some business stuff that you need, a little bit of fun, checking sporting results or sending a mate a pic or a GIF or something like that. And then put that away and try to see if you can spend less than an hour on your phone. On the Apple phone, it gives you your screen time and stuff. Look at what it is. Find out, Google it. I don't know how to do it, but my kids showed me sometimes I'm up to 6-7 hours a day. And I'll use that as an excuse that I'm using it for emails and stuff, but I know that I'm withering away my day with just crap. So, you know, that's some really simple stuff that you can go down, which I think might really help. But the most important takeaway from this chat, hopefully, will be don't worry alone. And if you don't worry alone, that means you're telling someone about the stuff that you're feeling truly about. So that really is the most important stuff. And we need to dumb this stuff down as much as we can. Talk about mental fitness, talk about don't worrying alone. You know, that'll probably give us enough to just break out of the routines that we're in at the moment that may not be too healthy.
Yeah, and I love that like mentality of manning up and saying something is you've got to be brave to do that.
Man up, speak up, not man up, shut up. Like your hubby for sure was told by his dad, your father-in-law, to man up and shut up. Just get on with it. Don't be a whinger, mate. Just get your head down, bum up and work hard. And that's it. You know, and I'm saying there's nothing wrong with that mentality at certain times in your life. You do need to do that. Imagine harvesting for people. That's a month or whatever. You get your head down, but you just get the job done. It's hard work. It's resilient. You don't want to be that whinging bastard then. But if that after that and you're sitting there and you're really down and you're worried about things and you're getting dark, wouldn't it be great to be able to turn to one of your friends or your partner? If it's your partner, you've won the jackpot. But most blokes don't have that, even if they love their partner. To talk to one of your mates and just say, mate, I'm bringing a 6-pack round. Let's just sit out the back and I just want to tell you about all the shit that's going on in my head at the moment. We should be able to have those discussions with people that love us, you know, and it takes a lot to be vulnerable. It takes a very, very brave person to be vulnerable. So man up, speak up, woman up, speak up.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's awesome. And so and you cover that in your Tomorrow Man and Tomorrow Woman.
Yeah, so Tomorrow Man and Tomorrow Woman go into schools or sporting clubs or whatever it might be. So if anyone wants us to come out and I normally come out and do like a chat to, the adults, if you like, and then tomorrow man and tomorrow woman go into the schools, and we can have father and son nights or parent nights where everyone can sit in, a hall of some description, or at a school, and we just talk, and it goes for about 90 minutes. And I tell you, it's life-changing. It gives you some really good thoughts and ideas. And sometimes people come along because they're forced to, because their missus say, come on, you miserable bastard, you're going. And they walk out and they get hold of me later and go, mate, that changed my life. I've had a discussion with my old man. I've had a discussion with my son, whatever it might be. It's 90 minutes of your life. Come on, let's do it.
Yeah. Well, we'll share a link to your website. Is that the best place to go to find out more?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Get in touch with me as well if you want to, and I can put you into touch with Gus. But before we sort of wrap up, are there anything else that you think you'd like to add that we haven't covered?
I mean, the takeaways for me was always want to make sure you find that Gotcha4Life friend, make your bed, water, breathing, and then talk without your phone. They're absolute takeaways. And, I've spoken about mental fitness. I've talked about emotional muscles. That stuff can come and go a little bit. But, if you just do that sort of stuff and get a deeper relationship with someone, I reckon you're more likely to get through the stuff that life throws at you. And that would be what I'd really love everyone to try to take away from this chat.
Yeah, because everyone's going to have their times when it's tough.
It's human. We're humans, right? And we've got emotions, and you're going to get angry, you're going to get sad, you're going to cry, you're going to laugh, you're going to scream. Why do we give ourselves permission to laugh and cry at certain things like funerals or weddings, or when you win a footy grand final or netball grand final or whatever? But we don't give ourselves emotions for stuff that really, truly chokes us up. Come on. That's a traditional way of looking at life, and that's got us to where we are now with those stats that we've spoken about. So no more. Like I say to people, not on your watch, not at your sporting club, not in your family, not in your community. Line in the sand. Be the first one to put your hand up and be vulnerable, to show them that it's normal and natural. Don't be the one that rallies after someone has taken their life. Gee, we're good in this country at rallying when people actually have taken their life or someone has attempted, and then we rally. Let's get ahead of the curve. Let's be preventable rather than reacting all the time. And that's what I'm trying to do is to get these workshops and chats into every community so we're ahead of the curve, so everyone gets mentally and emotionally fit, so we don't have a situation where we have to fundraise for a family that have lost someone. We're actually fundraising for the next generation to get these workshops. And that's the type of stuff we want in every community, I reckon.
Yeah, sounds amazing. Well, one last question for you. Do you have a favorite motto?
Yeah, I do. And you probably, you can probably tell, because I talk so much, but, leave no stone unturned. So there's so many people in this life that go, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to bother them with that. No, they've got enough on their plate, and it all comes from a really good place. That comes from a kind place. But really, people want to hear about it. They truly do. They want to be able to they want to be able to help you and be part of your community. And so leave no stone unturned. And I've said that to my kids all my life. I say that to Vix too. Like, she looks at a pair of jeans, she doesn't buy them, and then gets home, she goes, oh, should have bought them. And I go, it's because for whatever reason, you just thought, we'll do it later. There's no other do it laters. It's do it nows. That's what we should be doing. And
shop for ladies.
Well, she'll go back the next day and the size is gone, and she goes, oh, damn it. And I go, if you like something, buy two of them. You know what? Buy, if you got the new Asics trainers, or I've got the Hockers on, if I like them and they're comfy, I'll go back and get another pair, because I'm going to run them out and I'm going to look around. I'll never find something more comfortable again. So just go for it. Don't hold back. Life is too short. It really is. If one thing's taught me in the last 5 years since the Man Up program is just no stone unturned. Just go for it. If you love someone, tell them you love them. You know what I mean? If you've got a problem or an issue, do it in a nice way, but say to someone, hey, I've got a real issue with this and I want to talk it out. Don't keep all this beef going on. It's not healthy for anyone. man up and speak up, woman up and speak up, whatever it might be.
Yeah. Oh, well, thank you for sharing that. And thank you so much for your time, Gus. It's such a great fit for what we're doing at Active Farmers. And, it's also in a very proactive space too. I mean, we do focus a lot on physical health, but also how that can help, with seeing your community regularly can help mental health, or maybe we should start calling that mental fitness now. I like that.
I think you could. I'd love you to. I mean, I spoke to the Prime Minister about it. I spoke to the local ministers in New South Wales. I'm saying if we talk about mental fitness, it gives it a positivity.
Yeah.
Of course, there's mental health out there, and there's people that really need all the help they can get, lots of medication, lots of care. But a lot of us are just lonely, and a lot of us don't have the words to have the conversation that will allow us to have a relationship that's outside of banter. So let's call it mental fitness. I don't want to be an Olympian, but I want to run another marathon. I want to keep losing weight. I'm on this journey of physical fitness. I'm on the journey of mental fitness. That's what we should be talking about. And we've got to normalize these discussions so it doesn't become such a big deal.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, well, on that note then, Gus, hopefully we might see you at one of our 4 Run for Resilience events this year.
I love you guys. I loved you the first time I came up. Vix and I really enjoyed coming up. We took a house in town and came out the day before to help set up. And then I was fortunate enough to do a bit of hosting for you, and I really loved it. So please just keep me in the loop. And I love what you guys are doing. And there's a definite connection between physical and mental fitness, no doubt in the world. So why wouldn't we support you in every way we possibly can? And Ginny, you've done a brilliant job amongst all the other stuff you have to do to keep this all going. So anything I can do to help, just let me know.
Oh, well, thank you so much, Gus.
No worries.